You're watching Around the World, our top global stories, and we begin with the biggest coming in on the Ukraine war since it began. America's President Joe Biden has sent a strong message to Russia because he himself has landed up on the war front in Ukraine's capital Kyiv, which has become a symbol of resistance since Russia's invasion of Ukraine began nearly a year ago. America's President Biden arrived in Kyiv on a rather surprise visit, a historic trip in the context of the war, even as it completes a year. America's President Biden was expected to go to Poland to meet Poland's President Andrzej Duda and meet him in Warsaw. But instead, he took an unexpected turn and went to Ukraine first. And he has promised a huge new round of ammunition and weapon support, even as the European Union is also readying a similar arms package that is being modeled on securing COVID vaccines. America's President Joe Biden came to Kyiv to meet Ukraine's President Zelensky.
That dark night, 1 year ago, the world was literally at the time bracing for the fall of Kyiv. Seems like a lot longer ago than a year, but think back to that year. Perhaps even the end of Ukraine. You know, 1 year later, Kyiv stands. And Ukraine stands. Democracy stands. The Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you.
Now, Biden's visit to Kyiv came on the back of the Security Summit in Munich in Germany that took place over the weekend. Russia's nearly year-long invasion of Ukraine dominated the discussions at the Munich Security Conference. Leaders pledged continued support to Ukraine and unity in the NATO military alliance, while US and China traded charges over the spy balloon episode, even as China was warned by the US on helping Russia with weapons for the Ukraine war. About 40 heads of state and government, politicians and security experts from almost 100 countries attended the three-day Munich Security Conference in Germany. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz, former US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg were in attendance. Ukraine's President Zelensky arrived on video conference, urging world leaders to hurry up with agreements on weapons as he spoke.
He will definitely fall already this year. We can make it, all of us together, just as David did. Unfortunately, he can still destroy many lives, many. That is why we need to hurry up. We need the speed of our agreements, speed of our delivery to strengthen our speed of decisions to limit Russian potential. There is no alternative to speed.
For the first time in over 2 decades, conference organizers did not invite Russian officials to Munich. Western countries have sought to isolate Russia diplomatically over the invasion of Ukraine that began on the 24th of February last year. During a discussion on resilience in Europe's northeast, Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius reiterated his country's strong support to Ukraine and said that he wasn't alone.
I assured President Zelensky Germany will help Ukraine for as long as it takes, together with our European and transatlantic allies. And I made clear, Ukraine must win the war.
The United States has formally determined that Russia has committed crimes against humanity. And I say, to all those who have perpetrated these crimes and to their superiors who are complicit in these crimes, you will be held to account. In the face of these indisputable facts.
But even as US Vice President Kamala Harris asserted that Russia had committed crimes against humanity in Ukraine, top diplomats from the US and China met in the first high-level meeting since the spy balloon fiasco. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken sent the message that Beijing's surveillance program had been exposed to the world, while China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi responded sternly.
This approach of the United States does not prove that the United States is powerful, but the opposite. We advise the United States not to do such absurd things in foreign exchanges because of domestic political needs. We also ask the US to show sincerity to correct its mistakes, face up to and resolve the damage caused by this incident to Sino-US relationships.
In addition to that, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned China on providing assistance to Russia with weapons to help in its war against Ukraine, including assisting Moscow with evading sanctions by the West. After the conference ended, China hit back today, slamming those claims, calling them nothing but false. But even as churchgoers gathered at the St. Michael's Golden Domed Cathedral in Ukraine's capital Kyiv to pray for their country on Sunday, villages near Ukraine's eastern borders remained under heavy Russian attack. Ukrainian servicemen in various regions, however, remain upbeat despite attempts by Russian forces to advance their positions. Russia intensified its push to capture all of the eastern industrial heartland of Donbass region of Ukraine, where the frontline town of Bakhmut is located. Damaged properties and piles of debris were seen, and explosions can still be heard every day, even after a year of the war. Next up, distraught by the turmoil and aftermath of the devastating earthquake in Syria, now at least 5 people have been killed and many others have been wounded after Israel carried out airstrikes on capital Damascus. Loud explosions were heard over a central area of the capital around 12:30 a.m. Damaged buildings, broken windshields and rear windows of cars, exploded interiors of homes, and a mini bulldozer moving debris. These are the scenes in Damascus after a residential neighborhood was attacked early on Sunday. Not just that, the strikes also damaged a medieval citadel in central Damascus and an applied arts institute as well. The actual death toll figure still remains sketchy, but 5 have been confirmed dead, while 15 others are said to have been wounded. Israel declined to comment on these airstrikes, but has earlier acknowledged that it targets the bases of Iran-allied militant groups like Lebanon's Hezbollah, which support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's forces. The Israeli airstrikes come amidst a war shadow between Israel and Iran, with Tehran accusing Israel of being behind a series of sabotage attacks and assassinations targeting its nuclear program. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told a meeting of his cabinet that Israel will continue to defend itself from what it sees as Iran's aggression. The Israel-Iran rivalry was on display even at the African Union summit that's held in Ethiopia. In Addis Ababa, an Israeli observer delegation was forced out on the opening day of the summit, even as Israel accused Iran for orchestrating the exact incident behind closed doors. Similarly, the attacks on airports in Damascus and Aleppo were over fears they were being used to funnel Iranian weaponry into the country. Netanyahu also blamed Iran for a strike on an Israeli-linked oil tanker in the Gulf that was hit by an airborne object while in the Arabian Sea.
Iran tries to harm Israel and its citizens relentlessly wherever they are in the world. Iran's attacks will not discourage us. We will not allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons, and we will not allow it to entrench itself along our northern borders.
After a series of warnings to the US and South Korea, North Korea conducted its first missile test for the year 2023. It was a short-range intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM. This even as it is showing ominous signs of unleashing a nuclear test. After a gigantic parade showcasing its range of latest weapons and a growing nuclear arsenal and missile program on the 75th founding anniversary of the North Korean Army just weeks ago, North Korea has now test-fired 2 short-range intercontinental ballistic missiles within 48 hours. Japanese authorities claimed that these missiles flew for around 66 minutes, just over an hour, before landing in Japan's exclusive economic zone. The latest intercontinental missile test is another step towards showing North Korea's war readiness. In response to that, the US and South Korea conducted joint air drills in the Korean peninsula. Last year, North Korea fired more than 90 cruise and ballistic missiles, showing off its range of weapons and warning about a potential nuclear test. The quote-unquote exponential expansion of nuclear arsenal announced by North Korea has heightened tensions, and the latest missile test has been strongly condemned by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who called for Pyongyang to cease any other provocative action. As the tensions rise in the Korean peninsula, Japan is now closely monitoring the situation.
政府としては北朝鮮が今後
The government believes that North Korea may take further provocative actions in the future, including launching various missiles and conducting nuclear tests. In regards to North Korea's military trends, we will continue to work closely with the United States and South Korea to make all-out efforts to collect and analyze the necessary information, as well as conduct vigilant surveillance to ensure the peace and security of Japan.
Tibetan New Year celebrations are also underway. The Losar New Year falls on the 21st of February this year, but the celebrations begin 2 days before with the famous charm dance rituals. Members of a Tibetan Buddhist band performed during a charm dance ritual held to celebrate the upcoming Losar New Year at the Tsurphu Monastery in Lhasa, capital of the Tibet Autonomous Region. There are 3 kinds of this religious dance, which are solo dance, duo dance, and group dance. The charm dance is a ritual performed by Tibetan Buddhist monks to exorcise evil spirits. We leave you with those lovely visuals. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it with News 9 Plus.